This how-to video will introduce the concept of online queries in the BrightXpress Mobility Suite. The difference between an online query and a normal query is that an online query is querying the data directly from the server database every time it is used. A normal query will try and use the PDA's local database, and when we synchronize using a normal query, BrightServer will only send the data that's changed since the last time we synchronized. In contrast, an online query will always return the full set of data from the server database. So when would you use an online query? There are occasions where it will be more useful to use an online query, such as if the server table has a very large number of records, and storing every record on the PDA local database does not make any sense. When the online query is used, the PDA client will not store the data into its own database. By doing so, we're actually able to get a much faster retrieval of the server data with a lower synchronization overhead. When the online query is actually used to execute on the PDA and connect to the server to get the latest data, the snapshot of the records coming from the server are then saved into a local file in the PDA, which is much faster and lower overhead than saving them into the PDA database. Another case where using an online query makes a lot of sense is where the data that we are trying to get from the server is rapidly changing, or sometimes what we call noisy. Since the noisy data would be changing so rapidly, it would render all the data that we do store on the PDA fairly useless and out of date in between each time we use the query. In this video, I would like to take you on a walkthrough of a simple usage of an online query. So here I have my BrightXpress project. I've got a simple database. This is talking to an SQL 2008 database, and this configuration is sending table 1 data to the device. Now the only thing I'm using differently here between a normal project is I have, in this particular data source, I have ticked the server data source and set it to true, and every time I do that, you can see we have the orange connection point badge appearing there when I have it turned on. What this means is this is telling BrightServer in the configuration that this is the data source that we need to use for all online queries coming in from the clients. So for example, I could have another database. By default it is not marked as a data source, but if I turn that on, now I have 2 data sources that I can use. For my demonstration, I'm only going to use one data source like this. Now if we take a look at the PDA application, I have a simple form. I have the same table, and I've got some queries here, and I'll just go to the online query 1. Online query 1 is being used to populate the list view here. The online query 1 is in red because it's an online query. For untick it turns green, tick it again it turns red. Red means online. Taking a look at this query, it's simply going to table 1 and getting unconditionally, with no conditions in it, it's getting all of the output fields. Table 1 is a 3-field table. I'm running SQL Server 2008 here for this demonstration. I've got 2 records in my database on the server. This is the server database you can see here with a couple of data records in it. So if I run my application, I've got my HTC HD2 device hooked up to the laptop here, and straight out of the box we've got no data in the list view, and because that query is returning an empty set because there is no database for this table at the moment. So the way that you use an online query, if we look at the button here now, I've got online query 1 being used as the query for a sync rule. So I just pick the query there, and it's server to client, downloading data, sending data out to the device. I've got query 2 here. I'm not using it. It's just here to show you the difference between the green and the red of the online or not. I can happily delete query 2. Now The expression that I'm running on form 1, double click on that, takes me to the expression that's being run, is simply disabling all the sync rules, enabling that sync rule 1, that one sync rule that we have, and then firing the sync dialog, using the online query. Then it's going to refresh the list view after that's been done. So by using an online query in the sync rule, I'll just demonstrate what it's going to do right now on the device. It fires the synchronization, gets connected to the server. The synchronization progress dialog shows me what's happening, and after it confirms to me that it's an online query that's being used, and you can see that in the text. And when I close off, that data is now available. So once we run the sync rule using the online query 1, all of the data objects that use online query 1 as their data source, such as the list view query 1, sorry, the online query 1 being used in the list view here, now use the data that has been downloaded from the server. Underneath the hood, that data is being held within a file on the actual device in BrightForms, BrightPrograms, BrightForms Bing query. If I hit F5, we have the data there, an online query 1.xml document. That's what the PDA is using to display that data there. So this is how we use a standard online query. Of course, there are other types of queries we can have. We can have another query of an RPC, stored procedure. A stored procedure query will go online to Bright Server, and Bright Server will then run that stored procedure. The next kind of online query type you can have is an advanced SQL type, where we're able to put in any SQL type of language supported statement here, so such as select star from table 1, just to start with something really easy. This is the SQL statement that will get passed on. In the case of an online query, this will get passed on directly to the SQL Server data source. And finally, the fourth type of online query type you can have is a script query. And what a script query does, this is a very advanced feature that can be used to fully customize the data set that we want to return from Bright Server. We can provide any kinds of parameters. We can specify the server script that we want to run, and then get the output fields back. From that point, it acts like it plugs in as a normal type of query to plug into objects, data objects in the BrightForms area, such as list views, combo box, what have you. For more details, refer to the advanced scripts how-to videos and the online documentation. That concludes this introduction to online queries. Be sure to check out more how-to videos on brightexpress.com.